Hello and good morning. So the my title is Downtown is really clearing out the homeless, but they're not giving homes or shelter out to people who need homes. And I don't know if anybody has actually looked at the news. Some people don't have time. They might have to go to work, but these are summer hours. So it might be a little different for some people. And then what you don't see on the news, you see on your phone or whatever. And so they're having this massive cleanup downtown Los Angeles. They do this all the time, or they announce that they're going to do these type of things um, very often. But if you look at the news, you see where there are some homeless activists or people, in other words, that are trying to give water and give food and maybe some resources or point homeless people in the direction to where they can go and still keep all of their belongings and relocate somewhere else. And some of the people that were making comments, they were saying that they really feel that they're being pushed out of the areas where they are. And here's my thing here. It has gotten worse. And so you're seeing it in real time on the news, and you're going to see more of it. And so I really think this is a good opportunity to bring up also the issues that are going on in our government when they speak on trying to bring over, and I don't know if you've seen where Donald Trump has said that, or people that are journalists have written that Donald Trump has allowed for provisions of people to come to the US in ways where they kind of like drop them off, but I believe in sanctuary cities or cities that are claiming they're sanctuary cities. Los Angeles is one of them. And it's almost like a punishment. And it was like a back and forth debate from Republicans to Democrats that they were going to dump off people who are undocumented citizens, and then they just kind of like wait in these sanctuary cities until they get a court date, because they can't hold them for too long, because supposedly these detention centers are holding sites for some of these people, and then after a certain period of time, um, they have to let people go, and then where they let them go, they don't want to put them in cities that are not sanctuary. They put them in cities that are declaring that they're sanctuary, which is a safe haven for people who are undocumented immigrants. And so it's sort of like a back and forth debate and battle over, who's who in government and who calls the shots. And what has happened is all of this points to this. You have this homeless problem, and these are people who supposedly, there's a majority of them that are U.S. citizens, but they just can't. They have there's every case or story is different, and so it's a case by case. Every situation of people is individual and not synonymous to one another. Some are similar and some are not similar. Some are veterans, some are just people who have mental illness. Maybe they have a criminal history. They can't hold down a job or find a job that they can hold down that will trust them to work there. They wind up on the street, or substance abuse issues going on and drug dealing and what have you. And so there could be some undocumented people that are in the Los Angeles area, which I'm almost definitely sure that has helped some people back, because they know that now, since there's this crackdown on undocumented people, and even in the sanctuary cities, that people wind up losing opportunities for shelter and for homes. Low income housing, I believe, was also a focus, that people who are undocumented could not receive government assistance in low income housing because of the fact that they have not gone through the necessary channels to become documented. And so these are issues that have gone on over and over and then again. And so this says there's a massive homeless camp in downtown Los Angeles, and it's to be cleaned up Monday, which is today. And so this right here has been an ongoing problem. This is just not the only place here. These are people right here who aren't necessarily in the Skid Row area, but the homelessness has grown. to where you have encampments all over the downtown of Los Angeles in little pockets. And this is one of the many examples that I have been talking about. You'll see homeless encampments like this coming closer and closer to these luxury high-rise condo structures that they have developed all in the downtown of Los Angeles. This is why I say there's money everywhere, but who it's going to is not the people who really need it the most. And so the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer is basically what's going on. And here it says a major cleanup of homeless encampment in downtown Los Angeles is scheduled for Monday morning, which is today. The people living on the street have been told to remove all their personal belongings according to the flyer posted on the LA City Sanitation Department. And that's where it came from. And excuse the ads and whatnot. But the cleanup around City Hall is scheduled for 8 a.m. The flyer, which has posted on light poles, it's been posted on light poles by the sanitation department. It said the notices were posted across the street from the homeless encampment around the City Hall. And so this is where, if you come to Los Angeles and you go to City Hall and you go to some of the downtown of Los Angeles, you'll see you don't have to even go to Skid Row to see the homelessness that is going on. It is spreading. And so Skid Row is spreading and it's getting bigger. And so the area includes a block on First Street between Broadway and Spring Street, where at least 15 tents have been put up by homeless people occupying the sidewalk in the front of the fenced-in lot next to a portion of the Grand Park used for parking during scheduled events. And so the flyer states the major cleaning will take place that includes sidewalks, alleys, parks, beaches, parking lots, and other public areas. Now that may happen, but a lot of residents, homeless residents, I'll say that they do this a lot and they really aren't cleaning up. They're just basically pushing the homeless encampments away from the more upscale areas of downtown, and they want them to just designate themselves to the Skid Row area, because there was an article that I was reading where they were stating basically that instead of helping these people, because there's resources out there, but when you give resources to people who don't utilize them, or they don't get the resources fast enough because they're on a waiting list, because there's a lot of people, like hundreds of people that are homeless, maybe even in thousands, it's fair to say that there are also some people that are substance abusers. They have mental illness and they don't know how to access the resources, or they are in a position where they're not wanting to get off the street because of their drug addictions and whatever. They have pretty much put themselves out there on the street because they don't comply with the rules of shelters, because a lot of those shelters have rules in downtown of Los Angeles, like the LA Mission and whatnot. They don't want you coming uh, with your alcohol and your beer and your drugs, and you cannot bring that in the shelters. You cannot loiter outside. You cannot be fighting with other homeless people. If you have like a history of some really serious criminal offenses and stuff like that, they might even question you on those things. They might provide you some other resources or other places that you may be able to access or go to get help. But there are shelters that it's not like a place where there's a bed and there's a couple of meals and they let anybody in the door. They have criteriums, like requirements, rules, in order for you to stay there. And usually, even with all of that, first priority homeless people usually are families, women, children, people that they feel are more important case situations where they must have a place to stay immediately. And so it usually tends to be people who have disabilities and maybe people who are families and with babies and what have you, that get first, how would you say, first dibs on, or first first come, first serve, or first priority in terms of, and they're bumped to the front of the list because of their circumstances a little more serious than somebody that's just by themselves and they're out there, they're a substance abuser and they're looking for a place to sleep. So the notice directed to people to remove all their personal belongings, include bulky items, 8 a.m. That was this morning. And so otherwise, all property remaining will be removed by the city. So basically, it gives them the right legally to take all the tents and all the property and remove it. But, however, it says the property left behind, except the items that pose an immediate threat to the public health or safety, trash and evidence of crime, contraband, that has to do with the drug issues and alcohol and all this other stuff, things that are not going to help you get out of homelessness but keep you in homelessness and having health problems and what have you, will be collected by the city and kept in a secure location for a period of 90 days. Stuff like tents, things like that, um, they might keep it for a period of time, and then the flyer is also directing people whose property was collected to call a number and to retrieve those items, if it's hairbrushes and combs and hot plates and tents and blankets and pillows and what have you and stuff like that. And so it says the property will be held at 507 Town Ave, according to the flyer, and so that some people can pick up their items. But that might pose a problem because they may not be able to pick up all their items, or maybe not all of their things will be there the way that they found it. And so this is creating a huge debate and a huge discussion, which has already been underway long before. And so you've seen, if you watch the news, you've seen how some people were extremely upset because they see this, they work, they live in the downtown area, and it's not, for some people, they look at it as an eyesore. They step over it. It is bothersome. Two, there's the threats of disease spreading, typhus, tuberculosis, what, whatever else that diseases are out there that run rampant. Police, law enforcement that have come to the downtown area and witnessed some of those areas have complained of getting sick because of being exposed to the diseases that are out in the downtown area where the homeless population encampments are. There have been like regular people who have complained about trash dumping and how sometimes there are people like businesses that if they don't want to pay money for the trash that they throw out, if it's a restaurant or a place of business, and it gets expensive because things get high priced here in Los Angeles. They get some homeless people to dump their trash and put piles of trash in certain various places of the downtown of Los Angeles, and it looks as though as homeless people are transferring mounds of trash from one place to another. But what they do is probably give them a meal, a homeless person, to do this illegally dumping. They give them a couple of dollars, maybe a meal, maybe some enough money so they can go buy a beer, some alcohol, or something, which is not helping the homeless people whatsoever. It just makes matters worse. And so these are constant different issues that are going on. And if you look, if you happen to have access to, streaming station, Netflix had aired a new documentary series called Dope, and that is like drug traffickers, and they showed a scene where it was all Los Angeles, and believe it or not, it wasn't like just regular neighborhoods. Not saying it does, things don't happen in the regular neighborhoods, because there are homeless encampments out of the downtown area in lost parts of Los Angeles that you can see that aren't just in the downtown area but designated to downtown Skid Row. You see that there's a large hub of drug traffickers that pretty much are coming down there and exploiting the homeless situation, because they know that when people get their disability check, or they get a little bit of money in their pocket, or they sell their body, or whatever it is they do to hustle and get up a couple of dollars so they can feed their uh, heroin fentanyl habit. And so that's the big thing. I think one of the big drugs that they were talking about, and a lot of those drugs are exported and transported from like some of the Latin countries like Colombia and Mexico or Mexico. And you have like people who are farmers that cultivate the the drugs, and they kind of, make the ingredient, and then they work under the guise of like a group of cartels and then it's exported out, is transported to the various metropolitan cities, and one of them, which is the biggest customers in terms of that business, and for the flow of it to keep going, is Los Angeles. And they usually prey upon the people who are always the most vulnerable, usually Black and Hispanic and whites, and it's an opioid drug. But more recently, what has happened because of the opioid crisis, more and more white people have been stricken with this type of drug, which is, I believe they showed what looked like heroin, and what's inside the ingredient of heroin is fentanyl. And so that's supposed to be boost the traffickers' income. And once it gets to LA and it's been transported from various different places, countries, and once it gets on the streets of Los Angeles, the product is like quadrupled or maybe even more in terms of value. And so this is the reason why some people they continuously stay on the streets. If you see white people that are out there, you'll see I've been seeing some white people who are hooked on this opioid drugs and they can't get off of it. And one of the precursors to that is because they have included other ingredients in the opioid drugs to make it even a lot more stronger, a lot more potent, a lot more harder to kick those habits. And so you'll find some of those people that are in the Hollywood area. If you go on Vine in Hollywood, it's just ridiculous. You'll see homeless people all aligned on Vine before you get to Hollywood Strip. And what's crazy about that is like when you go towards I believe it's the Windsor or Larchmont area and all those areas, they look nice and clean. You'll see like in between that area where you see like on Rossmore, you'll see like a nice manicured lawns and homes that look like mini mansions and what have you, and it's clean. You don't see any homelessness. But as you go back towards past on across the other side of Melrose, and you go down Vine headed towards Hollywood Boulevard, you'll see all these pockets of little homeless encampments. And then shortly before that, you get to Hollywood, you'll see the mental health clinics. But I would say this, there's not even enough room for all those people to get in there because it's just crazy. There's fighting. You park up your car. You don't know if somebody's trying to steal something out of your car, bust the windows because they're looking for change. They're desperate. You'll see prostitution. You'll see people fighting. You'll see tents. You'll see some of the same individuals that are hanging out. They'll destroy, like in Hollywood, they have all these little bikes, these Uber and Lyft like little scooters that are supposed to be public for public use. And you have to, I guess log on, get an app or whatever to get the thing started. You pay a fee or whatever. But a lot of times you'll see sometimes the homeless people that are on Vine, if they have some kind of mental problem or they're not able to make the scooter work, they destroy those public property scooters. And you'll see them laid out, look like somebody snatched it loose or broke it or whatever because they could not use it for their own using. Because it's programmed where in order for it to actually work, you have to pay a fee to get it going. So it's not where it's just like a regular scooter. You can just get on it, hop on it, and start rolling. So you'll see a lot of stuff going on in Los Angeles that is really sad. So this is not uncommon. This is just one of the many issues that is going on. And there are a lot of people that are upset about this because you see all this building going on in the downtown area, all these high rise and luxury apartments and condos and what have you. And there is money everywhere, but the money is not being filtered down apparently for enough resources for those who maybe you aren't mentally ill, you aren't a drug user, you're like really scrounging next to nothing, you're living paycheck to paycheck, your life is uncertain, but you're like one step away from being in this predicament right here, or you're like maybe 2 months away from that. That I say. It's just sad, but you see this growing. And what is scary about this is that it's not just designated as people would like to think, just to the Skid Row area. So when you think about this, it's just really an ongoing problem. And it's not just here in Los Angeles that I've been learning and other people have been seeing, that it is even in other cities of California where the homelessness is just ridiculous. But I will say by far in Los Angeles, it is sad. When you come here, you'll see tents. You can go and drive in regular neighborhoods, especially at Vermont. If you go to the south side of LA, if you go back to the north side of LA, you'll see you can just, if you just go up and down Vermont, that's a main boulevard. It's like an artery where people use like main streets like Crenshaw and Vermont Boulevard, and main streets like Normandy, and you will find on Vermont, you'll find some homeless encampments, little pockets and areas. And this is moved from out of the Skid Row area to actually residential areas where you can walk down to the corner of your street on your neighborhood, on your block, and find a row of tents on the main boulevard. And if you see the liquor stores that are lined up, that's usually where those people that are homeless will hang out close to those liquor stores, because you gotta have your tent next to your liquor. So I know that sounds sarcastic, but that's pretty much what you see. And so this is the kind of thing that it rubs people the wrong way. It's like, here we are, we're supposed to be a country where we're supposed to be extremely wealthy, yet we have so much homelessness and poverty. It's like, what gives? What gives? And then recently they raised the taxes on gas. They say they're going to clear up the roads and they're going to do all this stuff, and the money is supposed to be going for schools and for the infrastructure. You never see that money actually, your tax dollars going to work doing any of that stuff, because like some people were complaining that even the San Bernardino area, there's streets that are just horrible, full of potholes. Recently, in Compton, there were like people that were involved in that whole area of Compton that were like political officials are sitting in seats, and they couldn't agree on a decision on who's going to make decisions to actually fill potholes in residential areas of Compton. And here you had ex-gang members that had raised money to try to clean up the neighborhood, and they didn't want to take it. And so these are the kind of things that upsets people. It makes you think, well, what are you guys really using the money for? There's got to be some crooks up there that are pocketing the money and lining their pockets. Maybe they're living in the high-rise condos or luxury living apartments in downtown LA, and they're just sitting back like fat rats, and they're sucking up everybody's tax dollars, because you never see that tax money being utilized for what it's supposed to be used for. And so you go, and like if I was just to drive out and you drive on Vermont, there are the roads are so bumpy. I mean, it's ridiculous. You feel like you got to go get your car serviced after driving down some of the Los Angeles roads and some of the neighborhoods, because you're like, dang, did I get a nail in my tire? Did I ruin my shocks on my car because the potholes are so thick, so deep, and so wide, and sometimes you can put your whole body off in it, and just step down in there, and it's that deep. And you have residents who live in local neighborhoods, and they scrape up a few dollars and go get some cement and try to fill the potholes themselves. We shouldn't have to be doing stuff like that. You go to work, you work hard, and you get like kibbles and bits on your job, and then you're told your tax dollars are going hard to work, and it's hard to work. You never see that. You see it's hard to work, but it's not hard to work for your neighborhood. It's not hard to work. Money that comes out of your paycheck is not going into the neighborhoods that you have access on the roads and what have you. And so somebody is not telling the truth. There are some bodies that are not being honest and telling the truth. So this massive homeless encampment downtown Los Angeles to be cleaned up, I feel as though it's because so many people see that this is growing and it's gotten out of control. People complain and complain about this whole situation. What they do, instead of actually trying to solve the issues, which some people, you can't help everyone because they've gotten so far deep in the rabbit hole. The ones that you can help, they don't have enough shelters and enough mental health clinics to fill to put people in there. There's not even enough room. And so even the shelters, they have their criteriums. They put up criteriums and say, we've running out of bed space, or we have a waiting list. And then by that time, the person's been on the street for a year, 2 years, or they're a vet in terms of not veteran in the service, but a vet of being homeless. You have now this articles that are coming out talking about some of the homeless population is starting to age because they've been on the streets for so long in Los Angeles. So see, this has been kept quiet, and now that it's being looked at, and random people that come from out of other neighborhoods or other states, they come to visit. We see all this homeless encampment. They're like, oh man, this is like here you got a metropolitan city that's supposed to be really wealthy, and they're building all these condos and high rise and lofts and what have you, and then you have this extreme amount of poverty going on right in the backyard of all of this. And so you ask the question to yourself, it's like, what the heck is going on? And so somebody's lying. There's a bunch of criminals, there's crooks somewhere that are pocketing money, and they're not using the money for what they intended to use it. And recently they were saying that they were going to, raise the gas prices. The gas prices have already been high in Los Angeles for as long as I know. And now they want to put, 5% more tax on to add that included, it's $3 a gallon, almost $4 or $5 a gallon. There was a time that it was like $5 a gallon for gas here in California. And I feel like they always target the gas prices in the California region. And so it's just crazy. It just seems like there's no end to this madness. And there was one guy who he was expressing his disconcern for all of the homelessness that you're seeing in downtown of LA, but yet right next to the homelessness, right just next door or crossing the street or crossing the road, you got these high-rise condos, just constant building going on all around. Now, I wanted to add to this. I did a previous video where I said that there were property developers that were actually trying to buy single family homes. You know what they want to do with those single family homes? They don't want to make it easy for people to be first time home buyers. You know what they want to make those single family homes out of? They come to the black neighborhoods, and let's just be honest, they come to the black neighborhoods or the poor neighborhoods, whether you're black, white, Hispanic, and you're poor, and they take those single family homes, and you know what they turn them into? Rentals. And then guess what they do with that? It's not low income rentals. It's rentals where you got to pay a lot of money, because if you can't buy a home, if you have like discrepancies that keep you from actually feeling that you can actually achieve the American dream, you can kind of fake it until you make it, or fake it just until whatever happens in your life, or just assume that you'll never actually own a home, but you can have the life of living in a home. And so that's what their whole aim is now, is to take single family homes from distressed neighborhoods that money is not being really utilized to uplift communities of people who have been here like maybe a decade or two or more. And they take these homes that, you see them and they're like, you know what, well, since you can't sell this home and it's just sitting on the market, then as developers, instead of they got all these high-rise condos and properties everywhere, they're just making all this kind of money all over the place. Their eyes are set on getting these homes. And these homes can be all jacked up and everything, but they got a crew coming in. They can fix that home up, make it immaculate, and sell it out to you. And they look for people who want to rent out a house. Just rent the house out, and that's it. And it's not low income either. And so that makes it unfair, because that makes even the situation a lot harder for people who do want to own their own homes, who can have an opportunity to have their first time home buyer experience and be able to hold it down and pass on some type of equity, wealth, or whatever to their children in the future. That limits that opportunity now, because you got developers that I feel like they're house poachers. And in Los Angeles. So they're taking all of what is for them is opportunity, is opportunity spots in the poorest of neighborhoods, and making it an opportunity for them to get more rich on top of what they already have pretty much uh, market off, which is the housing market. And a lot of these people, they come from other countries. And I know some people are going to get maybe be offended by it, but a lot of times when I see some of these developers, they're Asian or they're foreign white people, or they're most of the times they're Asian, and they just come here and they just build a mess load of properties and high-rise condos. They've been doing that in K-Town. They've been doing it in Hollywood. And they make these places look immaculate, look beautiful. But guess what? You're gonna pay for them. You're gonna pay. You can't own them. They own them. That they, as in the developers and the people who are, it's a big money market, and it has gone crazy. It's gotten out of control. There's no stopping it, and there could be some stopping it, but the people who are in power that could put a halt on a lot of this, they just choose not to. And I believe they get an incentive to allow these developers. They get paid to allow these developers to come in and just pretty much take over the the living situation that's here in Los Angeles, and they just run amok, in the market, the housing market, and it's gotten into a situation where it's like a big animal that you can't control, and it just grows and grows and grows, and that's why you see that the homelessness is growing, because what happens is that's why now even in New York, there are landlords that are trying to take people to court, that are trying to fight for a cap on um, the rental raising that they're doing in New York, because it's extremely high out there to live in New York. New York City's like, it's got a history, it's got a beautiful scene, and the city life and what have you. It's the same as Los Angeles, but a little more higher, an upscale. But they have recently revamped Los Angeles and done the same thing. But you see what's going on here in Los Angeles. The high-rise condos, lofts, luxury apartments, when they slap that word luxury on it, you got to come up with some luxury money. If you don't have it, you are out of there. You're priced out of your neighborhoods. You can't afford it. It's happened. It happened in Inglewood. It's sad. It's like people, just regular working class folks, that you thought at least you could have something to come home to. Even if you don't own it, you work for it and you're paying the rent. You're keeping it up, and you're trying to take care of the little that you do have, and they want to make it harder for you just doing that. And so with that being said, you see this picture here of the sanitation of Los Angeles department. They're cleaning up and clearing out all of the debris and what have you. And this thing is already underway as we speak right now. And so it's a major cleanup of the homeless encampments in downtown Los Angeles that is happening. And so it's all over. This is just one pocket right here, but a lot of this too is because Los Angeles, downtown of Los Angeles, has changed a whole great deal, and it's to benefit the wealthy, or the people who are like making six figures. They're making a lot of money. They're doing a lot well economically, and then people who can afford that high rise, expensive living. And so, what do you think about this? It just seems like it just gets worse and worse and worse. And so, what's going to happen? I'll tell you what. What's going to happen after this? When they clean this up and then it goes away and it fizzles out, they're going to come back with their tents. They're going to come back with their belongings when they find that there's nowhere else to go, and you're gonna see the tents that they're moving and all the stuff they're removing and all what they're cleaning up. And this is your tax money probably helping to do this. It's going to go right back to where it was. They're going to start all over again. And then you're going to hear another story about them doing a major cleanup, or maybe worse. So with that being said, I'm going to leave this video. So like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for listening. It's so sad, but this is the reality of Los Angeles. Los Angeles is becoming homeless Los Angeles. Thanks for listening.